This is somewhat related in that along the lines of the press kind of getting the story wrong. I haven't read your book, but I'm assuming many of the scientists you talk to make their living by publishing in scientific journals. Is the press not reporting accurately, in your view, what's coming out in the scientific journals, or the scientific journals not reporting or giving fair shrift to the, or fair play to those articles that are being submitted anyway, maybe from the dissenting side? What's your view?
I think both are happening. People are having difficulty getting published, and when they do get published, the press ignores it.
Did the people you talk with, the scientists, say that they're having difficulty and give reasons for it?
Yes.
That the editors of the journals were prejudiced against them, or
That's right.
They tracked it? Yes, they demonstrated this?
They're unable to get their studies published. They're even unable to get letters in the scientific journals correcting science that they feel is incorrect.
Larry, I have a couple of questions. First, your book started as a series of columns that you write in the National Post in Canada, and you mention in the book that you have collected a very large number of other deniers since you started writing the column. Are you still writing the column occasionally to bring in profiles of other people that aren't covered in the book?
Yes, I'm planning to. I think I'm up to maybe 39 or 40 columns in this series, and I'm planning to keep it going for a while, but not at the same rate as before.
Right. My second question is, one of the things I've noticed about the people who challenge the consensus publicly rather than in private is that most of them are not like Dick Lindzen. They're not still in their career, and they're not still professors. They're retired. Or in some cases, at the point when they retire, they then announce that they really are skeptical about much of the so-called consensus, and then they become vilified after they no longer have to worry about getting government grants for funding and as you mentioned, funding for their entire departments being jeopardized by not signing on to the bandwagon. Do you think, have you found that to be just a general, that there are a lot more people who are retired who are willing to go public than there are Dick Lindsens and people who are still worried about departmental budgets and so on?
Yes, I think that is the case, although, well, many of the scientists that I dealt with did say that they were concerned about their finances in making this decision. Some had other sources. Some had, say, wives who had an adequate income to support them. But it was always a concern, and I think that's one category are scientists who are who are retired, and another are scientists who have such a great reputation that they don't worry about what others might think.
Like Freeman Dyson.
Yes.
Now, I have one more question, then we're going to have the final question from R.J. Smith. And that is, one of the things that has struck me is that outsiders have played a role in changing the debate. And I just want to mention that you discuss them briefly in your first chapter. The two most outstanding outsiders who have really changed the debate are Canadians, Ross McKittrick and Steve McIntyre. Steve McIntyre was a businessman who was trained as a statistician and mathematician, and he looked at the hockey stick and said, there's something fishy here. He was not part of the community, and yet he's made a tremendous difference. And by the way, we've had both Steve McIntyre and Ross McKittrick as Cooler Heads speakers in the past, so you're part of a good group, and I just wanted to mention that. Now, R.J. Smith.
Larry, I'm wondering if you know if anybody anywhere is looking at, to me, what I think is a very intriguing question here, is how so many seemingly otherwise rational people got wrapped up in this huge monomaniacal craze, believing that man drives climate change on the planet. I mean, perhaps you have to look at books like the what the extraordinary madness of crowds and how people got involved, whole nations in the tulip craze or the South Sea Island bubble. I mean, a fairly intelligent elementary school student taking a basic course in physical geology or physical geography knows that for millions of years the planet's been characterized by ice ages and then interglacial warmings and ice ages and interglacial warmings, and that's all, takes place naturally without man involved at all. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was up in Ottawa testifying at your parliament on the Select Committee on Environment, and they started attacking me and CEI because we were destroying the planet because we didn't believe in their theories. And I said to the chairman, I said, aren't you aware of the fact that this very hill where Parliament is sitting, 10,000 years ago, there was a mile of ice on top of this, and suddenly it all disappeared? And are you going to tell me the first natives here were driving around in SUVs or heating their teepees from coal-fired power plants? I mean, this is sort of an insanity. I mean, maybe it takes psychiatry or sociology or psychology to figure out how so many people got trapped into this. But is anybody looking at this that you know of or asking those questions?
It sounds like a great subject for PhD theses. Probably there are a lot of them in the works now.
Good. Hope they come out soon.
That's the last word. Pick up your copy of the book if you want more. It's widely available now this month in bookstores and online. And if you want to do an event with Lawrence Solomon, Sandy Schultz, the publicist for Richard Vigilante Books, is here. Please talk to her. And now please join me in thanking me for thank you for an outstanding presentation.
You've been watching a discussion on the Deniers, the world-renowned scientists who stood up against global warming hysteria, political persecution, and fraud, written by Lawrence Solomon, Executive Director of the Urban Renaissance Institute. For more information, visit urban-renaissance.org.